All right, we dancing, y'all. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of the Winner's Circle, everybody. I'm so stoked for our guest this week. I've been following him on Instagram for a while. He's so artistic with his movement, and I just love it so much. Our goal with this podcast is to bring you guys people who are winning in the real world. And what that looks like is following your passion, no matter how difficult, no matter the adversity you may face, pursuing that. And a lot of people feel trapped in their career because of what we've been taught we need to do to be successful. And I think it's time that we break that mold. So if Derek would please introduce our guest for this week.
Absolutely. I'm so stoked to introduce you to my friend and our audience, to our great guest today. A lifelong martial artist, a lifelong mover, former professional mixed martial arts fighter, the founder of Steel Mace Flow, Steel Mace Flow coach based out of Austin, Texas. He travels around America, the world, teaching a Steel Mace Flow system. His unconventional approach to training is based on his belief in function over muscle. He's also an Onnit pro, an Onnit Academy educator. Leo Savage, welcome to the Winner's Circle.
Thanks for having me, man. Dude, that was... I'm kind of pumped on my credentials there, man.
Absolutely.
You should be.
You are a man to be celebrated, and we're going to celebrate you today, and we're going to introduce you and your inspiring self to everyone listening at home. And we're going to dive right in because that's how we do. And this is a very important question, not only for you, Leo, but for anyone listening and ourselves to know, what is our mission? What is our mission here on Earth, on this reality plane? So take it away, Leo. What is your mission, sir?
Man, what is our mission? That's a lot tougher question than what is my mission. And so I think, whenever it's come to teaching, so I'm going to give you a lesson on what I think that is. All I can do is give my experience. So rather than saying like, well, how can we all do that? Rather, how have I done that? This kind of ties in with something I do, Steel Mace Flow. It's this neat practice where you dance around with a medieval weapon and you can kind of get in shape. You can get swole in your soul. I like that one.
I like that.
And so what is my mission? I'm very fortunate. Sometimes I'm lucky, but I'm often fortunate. And, if I took like an IQ test, I don't know what it would be. It'd probably be 420. I don't know if that's even on the scale, but I don't know if that's a high number. I'm just going to say it's probably, my IQ is not the highest. Okay. But like I said, I'm very fortunate. I found the thing that my brain fucking loves to do. And so if you were to quiz me, if you were to give me an IQ test on movement or Steel Mace Flow, I think what you would come to find is I test at the highest 1% of the world. I'll pat myself on the back. I think I win that competition. I think I'm the Mace genius. All right. It's important to have an important idea of who you are, not to underestimate yourself or undersell yourself. You have to be accurate with your description on who you are. And so if you say, I am the best, I am the number one, it's not to compete with anybody, but that's my vision of how I see myself. So I got very, very lucky that I found the thing that my brain understands at such a high level that I could be considered a genius. And so if I'm pursuing life and I'm giving people advice on life, I would say try everything until you find that thing that your brain loves to do. Okay, so there's a couple different levels on that. I get so excited to do my art form. I've been doing this since 2014, and I still get so pumped. Like when I hear a song that I know I can move to, I get so excited, like a drug fiend who just scored a bag. I mean, I'm so fucking pumped up. And so not only do you need to find something that your brain agrees with, but you should find something that you can commit to, and that commitment is, committing to your happiness. This is the thing I can see myself doing for a very long time. And so when I encourage people or can give advice on what I've done and the things that have helped me go for my win, it is dedicating yourself to finding the thing your brain loves that makes you happy and makes you feel what a tree feels like when it catches the right amount of sun and the right amount of water, the right air. It's spinning right at the right revolution. We're right in the time where the tree stands up the highest and brightest. So yeah, chasing that feeling down and then not being settled when you find it. Oh, I found the thing that I can do for 6 years or the rest of my life. But keeping also another area open for more exciting adventures in fitness. Hey, just because you dedicated to yourself and you bought the knee pads, right? You bought the CrossFit gear. You got all the stuff. You got chalk. You got the headband. You got all the stuff. It's really hard to let go of that identity when injury occurs. So maybe it's going to be like a back injury, a knee injury. Okay. But underneath all that is the injury of the heart. So being able to say, I own what I'm doing. It doesn't own me. I may be part of the CrossFit community, but at any time I want, I can chase other avenues of wellness. So, what is the goal? Find the thing you love, dedicate yourself to it. And so, well, you're going to have to get paid. I mean, that's part of it. The starving artist. There's a lot of artists out there who don't know how to monetize their art. And I'll tell you why. In my experience, what I do is holy to me. So how can I charge or put a value on this thing, this art form that I love so much? And I say art form because, I think of a painter putting a painting together and it being priceless because you just can't put a value on what that means to him and the impact maybe that piece of art has had on the world. So it's difficult for artists to monetize their stuff. One of the reasons is that way. And two, there's just not a lot of direction. So here's the direction in monetizing, making money off of the thing that you love. Who fucking cares? You love it. Just do it. Fuck the money. All right. I live in America, which this means by definition, you can do anything. You can be anything. This is a beautiful thing. And here's how you do it. Whatever you love, just do it and be an awesome person on your journey. And one of these days, that novelty thing that you're doing, dancing around with a sledgehammer, is going to touch somebody in such a way because you're an awesome person and you're doing this for the right reason because you love it and it makes you happy. And they might say, how do you do that? And because you show them this thing that is so neat, they will want to repay you. And so that's how you start monetizing. You're an awesome person. You dedicate to your craft. People will come to you. And, this is very important to know this lesson because we're at a time where everybody can see the phony through the camera and the screen. We've got so used to people flexing on Instagram and pretending to be maybe people they're not on social media that we can see the fakes, especially on YouTube. It's amazing. So you have to be genuine in your practice because we're a new species, especially now where we live and breathe through this type of thing, Zoom. And so, and take your honor with you. Take your honor with you. That's an important one. I learned this word unlearn. And I think when the first time we all heard the word unlearn, we were like, yeah, what can I unlearn? But too much of one thing is too much of one thing. When the fuck are you going to retain? When are you going to retain? And when are you going to train whatever you retained? So there has to be a point in your life where you say, no, this is me. And I'm never going to bend from this. Sure, I learned some valuable content, but I'm always going to be who I am. And that's my code of honor. So, I think we could go on and on about those things, and I can continue to give advice on where I've been a little bit successful, but I think there's like a real good combination of things that will help upgrade anybody out there who is trying to live their best life.
Beautiful. I loved what you said about how you still every single day just get so lit up about what you do. And we talk about the hero's journey on this podcast, and Joseph Campbell has a quote that says, "Follow your bliss." And I think that's something that so many people just aren't concerned with right now because they're just trying to survive, where the best way to survive is if you're doing what you love. And I think knowing that it's possible to monetize your passions, as you were saying, like the artists who are not monetizing their work, or whoever is not monetizing it, it's common for people to have a negative connotation of money or being successful, but it's literally just energy. And as you said, when you're authentic and giving people what you are here to give, like people will want to return that energy to you. So I think understanding that we are all abundant, we are extensions of the universe, of nature. There's no shortage or lack in nature, and knowing that we are always supported and that energy will flow to us as long as we're like flowing it out to others as well with our gifts. It's really, really beautiful. So that was a beautiful share.
Thank you.
But what about when we encounter that number one thing that holds us back, which Steve Maxwell calls false events appearing real? Fear. How do you, Leo Savage, overcome fear? You're a very fearless guy. How do you advise people that are less fearless than you, have more fear? How do you advise them to take that step forward into the unknown, the unpredictable, the unsafe, which holds people back?
Fear. All right, let's get into it. One, I have a lot of fears. You mentioned this, so I'll tell an old fight story. Fight stories are great. I used to compete as a mixed martial artist. I was a professional for a while. And I always did this thing where I was the tough guy. I was like, I'm going to kick this guy's ass and break all his bones. I'm so tough. I'm not scared of anything. But the reason why I got into martial arts was because I was afraid. And so I learned how to defend myself, and I learned how to deal with violent people or weird encounters. But I was never in a place where I wasn't afraid. And so I had all of these fights. I'd been traveling. I think my record was like 16-3 at the time. I was kicking ass, man. I had a bunch of gold belts. And I had my first hometown fight. And I thought it would be cool. My grandpa bought a ticket. My grandpa doesn't leave the house unless it's for work. And he's front row at my fight, along with the whole town. Everybody knows me. Matter of fact, the locker room, they said, fuck it. They let like people in the locker room with me that they shouldn't, like fans. It was the most amount of pressure I had ever had on me in a fight. What if I get beat up in front of my grandpa? So I couldn't take it anymore. Everyone's patting me on the back. Just another day at the office. Just practice. This is just practice for you. You've done this 1,000 times. Yeah. I said, guys, hold on. I need your attention. I can't fucking take this. I'm scared out of my mind. I can't pretend I'm not afraid. I'm fucking terrified. So you guys need to stop. Like all this pushing me into it, you have to stop. I said, look, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to fuck this guy up. All right? But I just want you guys to know that I'm going through some shit. And everybody in the locker room was like, oh, fuck. Man, looking back at it, that was a pretty brave thing to do. And it started my evolution to encourage the most masculine of men to be real. Even if it's a feeling of like, man, I'm afraid. So here's your kind of like, maybe this guy you look up to in the locker room, and he's like, guys, I'm afraid. So old fight story. I went up there, I won the fight. It's kind of neat. It's on YouTube. You guys can watch it. I had red hair, yada, yada. But you would never know watching the fight. Man, that guy was scared out of his mind in the background. And there have been often times where I'm going to teach and I make up the possibilities of failure. I start daydreaming about, what if I forget? What if I leave something out? What if who knows? What if the power turns off? What if no one shows up? What if somebody gets hurt? What if, who knows? So you start making up fears. One thing I learned about my fighting career, my martial arts career in general, I grew up abused. Violence was always at the forefront of my day, whether it was at school or at home. I was never white enough. I was never dark enough. So I was always in pursuit of not being afraid. And what I learned by putting myself out there is I'm pretty damn good. When I have that anxiety of fear, I'm fucking good. And so now, when I step up to the plate and I feel fear and I feel anxiety, it's my comfort blanket. I know, yeah, this is uncomfortable. But Leo, when you get on stage, this is why you trained your whole life. So fucking bring the fear on. When I practice psychedelics, I journey towards the dark waters. I challenged myself to be uncomfortable. Now, not in a lot of ways. The Savage likes luxury. Look at me. Fancy mic, pretty colors. But I do like to find things that make me feel uncomfortable in ways that I feel like I'm training myself and being an example for other people. And I'll tell you, some of the bravest thing I've done was create Steel Mace Flow. It was very tough. And it's always an emotional journey when I go on this one. So I'll be emotional. But imagine a guy moving into a gym, trying to find his way in the meathead society, an artist. I had to show up at the gym and swing a sledgehammer at like 4 a.m. when nobody was there, because I was afraid of what people would think about me. Like I needed to be called gay or a fairy another time. So I hid my talents, my dancing, and my flair for dramatics, because I didn't want to not fit in. I showed up at this gym. I'm a new trainer. I could have been one of the boys. Matter of fact, I tried, hurt myself, deadlifting. And, I sooner or later found the Onnit Academy, and I realized swinging things, it's a thing. And while this crowd may not appreciate you, there are people out there who are different, like you. So, man, Leo, you're the same as those guys. What a beautiful feeling. So you think you go show up and meet those guys. I did. And I was still afraid. I don't swing mace like them. I don't move like them. What if they judge me? What if I'm not accepted? That wasn't the case. The Onnit Academy accepted me openly. So I had this huge company who supported me. But still, to this day, the art of Steel Mace Flow is bashed for its feminine attributes, gay bashed for its feminine attributes. I get called fairy, I get called queen, I get called ribbon twirler, I get called every female athletic sport in the book. The bravest thing I have ever done is stood up to all of those bullies. I have fought back rigorously. Leo Savage knows how to fight back. I never ever went looking for a fight. But if you're going to fuck with my people, I'm going to stand up for them. Because when I was growing up, nobody stood up for me. I just wish one time one of my teachers or one of my parents would have stood up for me. would have advocated for me. And so now I stand up for my students. The bravest thing I ever did was create Steel Mace Flow and challenge what people think of fitness. The deeper you get into Steel Mace Flow, the more bizarre it is. It gets more bizarre than dancing around with a mace or a sledgehammer. There is a practice, a personal practice of self-development involved in the art of Steel Mace Flow. Not the fitness regimen of Steel Mace, but the art of Steel Mace Flow. I'll tell you a big story. Maybe I'm not giving you guys enough time to talk, but let me tell you the big story.
Bring it on. We're loving this.
I think everybody who listens to this believes in maybe the power of words, the power of journaling, the power of using the accurate words to describe your future and how to chase that down and how to set goals. So let's just pretend we're all there. Okay. If I wake up every morning and I say, I am a fucking asshole, even if I do it in the happiest voice possible, I am a fucking asshole. Sooner or later, the power of my voice will knock over Derek's phone. Right. And so eventually what will happen is you will turn into what you profess yourself to be.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you wake up every day and you say, I free people, I am a hero, I am Leo Savage, well, then you start to manifest yourself into whatever that person or that habit might be. You write it down, you say the words every day, magic happens. It's no mystery. Well, how do we upgrade that practice? Let's get into it. What if we put a ritualized dance around that practice? So here you are, you have this affirmation, you have this thing you want to do. You write it down, you say the words, you write it down accurately, you repeat the words, and then you turn that journaling into physical movement. That's what I do. Steel Mace Flow, the act of creating a flow, is a physical journaling of the experience I may or may not be having today. So I get to act out my emotions, not just write them down, not just journal how my night was at the end. The neat thing about moving with emotion, I remember trying to sit down in a circle, old story. And they were like, you feel that feeling in your heart? Yeah, move it to your head. I can't. I could never move the emotion. I could never do that. But if I'm emotional and I physically move through my journaling, through my story, healing happens at a level that I can't even begin to describe. I didn't mean to be a wizard, but I end up turning into a wizard. I have students that use the practice of Steel Mace Flow to heal from the inside. They're not chasing thighs. They're not chasing biceps. They are moving to move beautifully. Wait, beautiful movement? You have a story in your flow, and you just create your flow. You just started today. What's it going to look like? 1 out of 10? Maybe a 3, 4, 5. Who knows? But the point is not to just practice once, but practice that story over and over and over. And so when you see me move and it draws emotion from you, that is my journal being read. That is my song of resurrection being broadcast to the world. That's all my victories. And I teach that to my students. And so now my students, they're running around telling the story of my victory. And now it's been so inspiring. They're using Steel Mace Flow to create their own journal, their own story, their own flows of victory, giving fitness, this crazy thing, a new reality. We're not just moving to get in shape. I'm physically journaling my day. I'm moving the emotion of this goddamn COVID shit, these fucking riots. I'm taking them and I'm putting them into my practice. And the practice demands I make the work look beautiful. So if I'm flowing and I'm thinking of COVID, guess what? I'm going to make it look beautiful. And if that's not healing, I don't know what is. Fear. Guys, fuck it. Go for it. Look at what I'm doing. All right?
Wow.
I'm attacking COVID with my fitness regimen. You guys can do anything, all right? If you don't have to necessarily believe in yourself all the time. Just look at the guy who had the balls enough to do it. Just who it doesn't matter. Les Brown, one of my heroes, he had the balls to do it. Muhammad Ali, he had the balls to do it. So whenever I look at myself, man, I say, man, I don't know if I'm the guy. I look to my heroes. I realize who I was trained by. I spend time with Shane Hines, with John Wolf, with Primal Soldier. I spend time with those guys. Those guys believe in me. If I don't believe in myself, I believe in that my mentors believe in me. Mm. So yeah, fear, you're going to have to deal with it. And the great thing about dealing with fear is you beat it, right? If it fucks you up, you learn a lesson. If you win, you learn a lesson. Either way, you're good. Yes. All right.
So beautiful. And I just want to thank you for your vulnerability. I am very emotional after that share as well. And I think, anytime that people are saying these things to anybody, it's a reflection of what's going on inside themselves, and learning how to not take that on as who you are is super important, because people are going to say stuff in the external world all the time, and you can't control that, but you can control your reaction to it. I think one of the most famous quotes is like, it's not about having no fear, because we're always going to have fear, but it's about taking action in spite of fear. And when you can use that fear or discomfort as your compass of what you maybe should be doing, because we're all here to evolve and grow and learn. And as you said, no matter what happens, you're gonna learn. And when you build that muscle to do what scares you, to do what you normally wouldn't do, what would be easy not to do, you just grow and expand your consciousness so much. And learning how to get uncomfortable and be comfortable with being uncomfortable is just such a beautiful experience. And I think it's so cool that you are using movement as an art, because so many people, I'm a personal trainer, and I've worked in corrective exercise, which really helped me kind of release my old way of being with movement. I wrestled in high school too, so it was always like, go as hard as you can, do as much as you can. And then it was like bodybuilding, like we're looking a certain way, and then I hurt myself pretty bad, which led me to corrective exercise, which was a lot more about being present with my body and making those breakthroughs with my mind, because of the breakthroughs I was making with my body by doing what it's asking me to do, not what I think I should. And when you can turn something into an art that expresses your healing inside of you and moves that emotion, like that's why dancing is so healing, because you're moving that emotion. Energy gets stuck in us, we have these energy centers. A lot of the times the lower ones are blocked, and getting that energy physically moving allows you to tap into that power that is just getting buried because we're not dealing with what we're going through. There's a lot of people that would be running away from COVID, not wanting to think about the pain that's actually causing them. But when you're able to process it by being with it and then moving it, you can finally release it. Because if you're holding it, what you resist persists, right? But if you move and allow it to be there and love it and turn it into something that you love, which is, it's like, how can you turn COVID into something that you love, But you're doing that, and that is absolutely incredible.
Beautiful. I don't even know where to start. That was the most fire start to our podcast we've had yet so far, from my view. I'm almost speechless here, Leo. Thank you for sharing all of that.
You mentioned some of your heroes. Can you talk about those heroes and what do you like about those heroes? What did they teach you? We'll start there with the heroes, then you just as you did, you transitioned to some of your mentors. Maybe we can give them a mention. What did you learn from your mentors? And then how did you be a good mentor yourself to your students of the Steel Mace Flow based on what you've learned from your heroes, based on what you learned from your mentors?
Okay, so we'll start with my mentors, and then maybe we can, if I can remember, well, you guys might have to remind me, we can talk about how I've mentored, helped mentor my students. Okay, so some of my mentors, one of them that I love so much, Shane Hines, and I think it's appropriate that I mention him because I mentioned him before. Shane Hines is the coolest fucking dude. He is so cool. I've always like wanted a Yoda, but Luke got to train with Yoda for a minute, right? So Shane's like my Yoda every like 6 months. He'll just message me, hey, Leo, let's go for a walk. And Shane he doesn't necessarily keep up with what's going on in my life through Instagram and Facebook. He's not really on Instagram a lot. You know that, Derek. But he'll always have the right thing to say. I'm like, he's like Google. Like, if you like search TVs, TV ads start popping up. I don't know what it is about Shane, but he always knows. He always knows what to say. The first time I ever took an Onnit certification was the Steel Mace certification. Wow, can you imagine that? It was the second class ever of Steel Mace certification for Onnit, and it was a lot different back then. But I was worried about going, as I mentioned before, because I had a different way of moving the mace, and I had been doing so for a while, and I thought I was going to get in trouble. Like, I was going to show up and they were going to be like, don't you ever move the mace like that again. You have to move the mace like us. But Shane, at the end of all this, he goes, now, Leo, you can choose to use what we've learned either with or without in a way that the uniqueness and the tool, and I saw an eagle fly and he drops this ethereal thing. But anyways, Shane tells me I can do what I want with the stuff they've learned. And it was a trip. It was usually after you get an education certification. In my experience, it was, you do this exactly like us and go up and wait. And Shane was like, you can continue to do what we're doing and continue to do what you're doing and add them together, whatever. But thanks for coming. This was awesome. So Shane, he's always been a guy. Maybe this will just be the Shane moment. We'll get into other mentors. We'll just talk about ways Shane has helped me out. And this is actually kind of a neat story. Me and Derek hung out for a while. There I am, Saturday morning, waking up. I get a call at 7 a.m. from Shane, and Shane says, Leo, hurt my back. I'm supposed to teach the Onnit Steel Mace certification, and we'd love it if you could come help us out with that. We got some coaches down there. We'll be fine without you. We got some great coaches, but we thought, more hands on deck. And so Shane hired me to be part of the Steel Mace or the Onnit education team. And that, Shane was injured, and Shane's never asked me for anything in my life. He's never asked me for anything. He's always just encouraged me and showed me a great example. And I'm like, man, Shane needs help. I go down to the Onnit Academy. I teach for your Steel Mace certification, Derek. I teach for 2 days, and it didn't even dawn on me. Shane's such a valued person in my life. It didn't even dawn on me I had fulfilled a lifelong dream to teach Steel Mace for the Onnit Academy. I was more concerned about Shane, and it took me like 3 weeks. And one of my students called me and he let me know, like, hey, how was that? So, Shane, man, Love that guy. That opened some awesome doors for me. Of course, I got hired as an Onnit pro. The Onnit education team kept me as one of their educators. So very blessed to now be working with Onnit. They're going to come over here and shoot some footage for the Onnit 6 program. So Shane has really been, a huge blessing. I've got a lot more. I'll tell you my biggest. I mentioned Shane is kind of like every now and then he can help me out, but he's not like I go see my coach every day. And so there's a problem with people who create movement systems. I believe that I'm a pretty fucking good, I'm top-notch teaching in Steel Mace. However, I felt Steel Mace Flow. My students have to learn it. I felt it. Wim Hof felt it, figured out how to teach it. His students how to learn it. So, I don't have a Yoda. I have some people I can talk to every now and then, but there's not a Mace guru. There's not the Shaolin Mace Academy where you can go see the great master. So I have to learn from my students. And this is a beautiful thing. All of us, great creators of movement, Michael Fitch, that's the Animal Flow guy. He has to learn from his students. Here's my program, gives it to his students, makes his system adapt to his students. Take this out, put this in there. He learned from his students. The Onnit Academy, same way. The Budokan University, Cameron Shane. He teaches. He doesn't have a master. He doesn't have a great Yoda. He teaches this amazing system of yoga, of striking, how to combine those in with the quadrupedal crawling system. How do you put something together like that? Well, you have to rely on your students. So in mentoring my students, I felt a lot. I felt a tremendous amount. I do my research from YouTube and Google. Nobody showed me how to create a .com. Nobody showed me how to run a Zoom channel. I just had to kind of discover this. And I'm a leader, which means as I'm discovering and making mistakes, my students, they're copying me. And they're making probably the same mistakes. Probably naive mistakes. I didn't know any better. But I'll be honest with you. I've made some mistakes and I knew I was making a mistake. I was making a decision based on fear and ego, and I could feel it, I could smell it, but I did it. Because in business, those things happen. I'm not going to sit here and pretend Leo Savage is of zero fault. I've fucked up. And it was my students who helped me. And actually, I'm currently going through this. My students have helped me see the error of my ways. And so you really have a choice there. You can be right or you can be wrong. Of course, the right thing to do is acknowledge and make adjustments. And then the wrong thing to do is say, nope, I created Steel Mace Flow. This belongs to me. It's my system. And there was a time where that was happening. It's difficult when you turn the thing you love into a money-making empire. It's difficult. Listen, money-making empire to me, I lived in my car when I first started swinging mace and teaching people how to swing mace. So me having a place where I have lights, water, and cable is a pile of gold, okay? So, but things happen when you start getting into the business of fitness. It can be very difficult. I'll tell you what happened. I created Steel Mace Flow. I gave birth to a fitness modality. And then people started to copy me. They started to steal my stuff. Or did I just inspire them? Well, I probably inspired them. But the story I was telling myself fuck, I trademarked my choreography to my program. I spent money on lawyers to protect my business. And I inspired my students at such a big level for them to do the same thing and create mace systems of their own. And I'm guilty. I told them not to, that you would offend Steel Mace Flow. Yeah, and I knew I was doing something wrong, but at the same time, I was saying, oh, I'm doing business. This is how business is supposed to be done. You're supposed to protect your assets. Intellectual property, you got to protect that shit. And yeah, I fucked up. My team, luckily, I have an amazing team that were able to help me through this. And it's a tough thing to do when you're right and you've been right for a while, and making decisions and getting us this far, but still having the foresight to say, man, I've made some crucial mistakes. And also a very important lesson for my students to know is Leo, big badass Leo Savage, got woke ass Leo Savage got caught in the ego trap. I did. I don't know how many other people are admitting it, but it's out there. You can see it, you can smell it. The great thing about acknowledging it is when my students go through it, they help me get through it. But when they go through it, if they go through it, we can help them out as a community, because nobody kicked anybody out. We're so quick to fight right now without resolution. We're so quick right now to fight, to lash out with no resolution other than stop. How? How do we stop doing it? I don't know, but let's fight about it until. Because we've been doing the right thing so long, my crew didn't kick me out. They didn't abandon me. They didn't leave. They said, we're family. We're doing this together. We're not abandoning each other. So I'm very blessed to have a transcendence. I had students. My students turned into my friends. I hired my friends. My friends turned into family. And we have each other's best interest at heart. And the great thing about being part of a family is I'm not the leader. I'm part of the decision-making process, but I'm not the dictator. So how do I wrap that up for you guys? Yeah, it is easy to learn from the top, but at the same time, looking at the other end, for my students, for advice and for help, I think we can all acknowledge, all of us great teachers, or however you want to describe us, can admit we've learned a tremendous amount from our students as well.
Wow. I'm just learning so much from this conversation already. So thank you. I think we can all agree we're all MMA fighters, and you learn quite a bit when you win, but you learn so much more when you lose or when you make a mistake. And what's really cool is we actually talked to Natalie Higby a while ago, one of our first episodes, and she talked about when she was a third grade teacher, she made sure that she was making mistakes so that she was allowing the students to know that it was okay to make a mistake as well. And I think it's very easy for people to put people on pedestals and say, this person is perfect, this person knows everything, they never make mistakes, blah, blah, blah. But that's not human. And you're not going to learn that much if you are acting that way comparatively. And when you make the mistake, you have a choice to choose differently the next time. And that's beautiful that you were able to show your students that you were going to own up to or admit or become aware of that mistake that you recognize, and that it wasn't going to be that way moving forward. And then you allowed them to know that it's okay to do the exact same thing whenever they make a mistake. and learning from them in ways where you can be a better part of your family, you know? And I think that's so beautiful. I love that you said when you're in a family, you're not a dictator. You're not telling people what they should do. You're leading by example. And when you're that authentic, you can make so much more of an impact on people because they know that you have their best interest in mind as well. It's not just a transaction between you two.
Yep.
So, Leo, what is one thing as of late that has been working really well for you?
One thing that's been working really well for me, man, I've got so many things working well for me. I have a practice of counting my blessings. So, you know, what's working well for me? Man, that's hard. Jeez. This connection's working very well for me. Maybe you're talking about a personal practice or a diet tip or something. Can you give me some context?
Anything. Taha, what's working really well for you right now?
My leaning into embracing my own company right now because I'm not working and I'm just spending a lot of time in my own home. Oh my gosh. Hi, puppy. For anybody listening, he just brought his puppy onto the screen. Just leaning into really being with myself and embracing it and learning how to become my own best friend and not searching outwardly for the company that I have for so long done.
Yeah, and me, one thing that's working well for me is I'm allowing myself to take breaks. I grew up like a lifelong athlete, always physical. And during this quarantine, I've really allowed myself to put that on a back burner to attend to my mental, my emotional, my spiritual, bring those back up. And giving myself breaks and not having to always be training and not like beating myself up for not going for a run today. That's what's working well for me.
All right. So I'm going to say something that's probably not something everybody says. And give me a second, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody, this is Butter. He wanted to say hi. He's
Hi, Butter.
He's a bit of a camera hog. Huh.
So
all right.
Cute.
You want to go? Yeah. Okay. All right. So what's been working really good for me? All right. Negative thing for some, but COVID's been awesome for me. Now I know that, listen, I don't want to offend anybody, okay? But sooner or later, somebody's going to have to start weaning. I mean, COVID's been kicking our ass, so I know, trust me, when I go to the dog park, I know you guys lost your jobs. I know. And I know times are tough. When I go to the dog park, what do I say to everybody who's losing their ass off? Should I encourage them and give them like, hey, it's been working out great for me, and here's how. So COVID's been working out great for me, and I'll kind of just get into that for a while. I have an online fitness business, and I've invested heavily into that. So we had a reality shift with gyms shutting down. Everybody's doing digital fitness. So for those of us who were doing digital fitness ahead of the curve, we all probably made a couple bucks in there. And so what that's done for me is it's put me in a place where I've been able to help out a lot more people. So, I have a ton of coaches all over the place, and they, since they are involved in online fitness, they're winning as well. I've got coaches who are busier now than they've ever been. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Rather than depending on the audience that's just in front of you, presenting yourself to a global market is a whole lot different. I have a student who was used to teaching 3 to 5 people in his class, and now he's online, and he, minimum 15 people per class. So this negative time has been a really good point for me to focus on the things that worked. If you were doing something before the pandemic And when the pandemic hit, you didn't have to shift at all. You were probably doing the right thing as far as preparing for the future. All right, so I've got employees who are doing great. So not only was I preparing myself for the future, but I was preparing my students for the future. So here we are, we're on lockdown. You have to be with yourself. You can watch Netflix, but eventually you're going to run out of shows.
Mm-hmm.
There's no more live TV except for news, and you can only watch so much of that. As a matter of fact, we all did, and what happened? It all got negative. Instagram turned into a toxic dump. Everybody lost their job. Everybody's hurting. Everybody's reporting the bad news. So, yeah, corn winning. Yeah, I didn't have to change anything, and my coaches are doing well. I'm doing well. Their families are doing well, and so I really like that. Now eventually things will kind of go back to a semi-normal point, but it won't ever be the same, because what we all realize now is that this digital connection that we have, being coaches to the world rather than just what's in our classroom, it would be a really weird decision to take a step backwards. The future is going to be a bit of digital and a bit of reality. So having classes in person and then streaming those and letting people join in, those are things that I look forward to in the future, are bridging those gaps. So something that worked for me was learning the lesson of what things worked for me prior to coming into COVID, and turned up a notch once we got into this.
That's awesome. And I think it's very important to realize how much of your experience is your perception of what's happening, because a lot of people can choose to look at this as like everything that was lost, or you can look at it as, what am I gaining right now? And for me and Derek, we've been thriving through this time. Like, it's been everything that we literally needed: time with ourselves, time to work on what we want to work on to create for the future. And I never would have, it would have taken me so much longer to do that if I was spending 8+ hours at the gym every day. But I could have easily looked at it as, oh my gosh, I have, no idea what's going to happen. Is the gym ever going to open again? Like, it's so easy to go into that negativity. And I think that's why it's so crucial to be choose very wisely what you consume during that kind of uncertain time, because as you said, Instagram went wild, news went wild. Like, if you choose to take that in, then you're going to have probably a harder time in not taking that information as truth, So, I took time off Instagram, time off all of this stuff, and then I felt great. So it's always our choice of what we're going to experience and how we want to move forward, and realize what maybe wasn't working in the past and what we've been learning will work better for the future, no matter what happens. And that's so cool that not only were you able to thrive yourself through this, but all of your coaches and students and everything were doing really well too. And that's an extension of the example you've been showing them, right? Like, I'm going to use this time positively, not negatively.
Definitely.
So on the other side of the coin, what right now in the present moment, Leo, is not working for you, and that you're in the process of discarding, and what does that look like?
Oh man, this fucking COVID thing is killing me, man. Yin and yang, baby. Right? So regardless of how I'm doing, how the digital platform's doing, you know what I miss? Fuck, I miss teaching classes, bro. Oh, I miss giving somebody a hug, and they're going to apologize for being sweaty, but you're the one who made them sweaty. Mm-hmm. I know I'm going to get a sweaty hug, and I'm like, hey, great job. I fucking love you, man. We'll see you next week. I miss traveling all over the world and teaching Steel Mace to people in person, man. This digital connection ain't fucking working for me right now, guys. I'm in social love. Look, beautiful man, beautiful girl on my screen. You guys are in my house, but I'm going to click 2 red buttons and the euphoria is going to go away. It goes away a lot quicker. I notice when I end a call on Zoom rather than somebody being in person. So this social distancing stuff, it's a fucking sickness. I'm no scientist, I'm no doctor, but I can speak a lot about depression. Artists live in solitude. Listen, you got to go out there and you got to show the art. A lot of artists got stage fright. Why? Because we live by ourselves. We need to control the environment. We need to control the environment so we can vibe. You know what I mean? We have to be able to take control over all the shit. And then once we can do that, then we can create our art. Yeah, you guys feel that? Put on some metal.
Oh, I feel that.
I bet you it changes. I'm controlling the art. Why? Because I'm by myself. This is my space. I have control over it. I have control over my space. And so if I want to create art, I have to be by myself. And it is a depressive place when you are by yourself. But you do get to create art. That's a beautiful thing. But it's difficult to create art. It's very difficult to create art when you don't have control over everything. You guys see that?
Yeah.
That's me.
You in the background at the Onnit Academy.
There's 2 of me.
Cool.
This is crazy. And even though I can present this and we can do something cool. This is actually part of my new training platform. Let me show you how it works. You actually do the movements with the guy. Okay, we're gonna do this one. Okay. Okay, then we're gonna do this one. Okay, then we're gonna do. Okay, never mind that.
That's so awesome.
But no matter how much I play by myself, no matter how much I play with my cool toys, it is a sickness being by yourself. If you stay by yourself for too long, all the studies show you make yourself sick. Even if you have digital connection, even if you have cool toys, how come the rich guy in the mansion goes crazy? Because you need social connection. And so me not being able to connect with people is not working for me. I'm doing the best I can to adapt, and I think we all are. But we're not made to be alone. We're not made to connect just through here. We're not made just come here, man. Even if I get this close to you, yes. Nothing changes, man. I don't feel it. We're not made to live like this. So I can't wait to get out and connect with people. Sure, we got to make the best of it. And hey, I wear a mask when I go out, and I'm, trying to do all the things to make everybody feel comfortable, including myself. And it's neat to learn all these new technologies, but man, I need to go out and I need to hug some people. I need to play a random game of Frisbee. I want to pet a stranger's dog. I want to just stop and say, hey, bro, you want to ride? Jump in. Let's go. I want to fly. I want to arm wrestle the guy in the airplane for this is my arm rest. And he knows I'm just playing. But, I miss those things, man. The last certification I taught, the last Steel Mace certification I taught, it was magic. Really special time for me. I got to teach Steel Mace Flow at the Onnit Academy. I got to teach at Valhalla. I got to, this is the place. This guy who just created a weird thing, swinging a hammer, ends up filling up an entire building and sharing space with all these amazing people, and then housed by Onnit. Onnit teaches a Steel Mace certification. I teach a Steel Mace certification, and we get along. It was such an amazing moment. It was so cool. I recognized all these amazing mace people came from all over the world, and I said, I better teach something special. So, originally when I started teaching Steel Mace, it was like it was about mechanics. This is how you use the mace, and this is how you don't get hurt, and these are all the safeties, and these are how you get strong. But it wasn't very ethereal. There wasn't like a lot of the real context to why we practice flow in there. But, here we are some time later, and I'm at Onnit, and I'm thinking, man, if everybody came to this, they're probably into the mace. They've probably flowed a little bit and understand there's a little bit, there's something a little spiritual about the practice. And so I unloaded. I taught some of the neatest stuff I've never taught anybody before. I taught into this room, and it was a full out celebration for my students. I had some guys there who are this guy, Frankenlegs. His name's Zach, but his Instagram name is Frankenlegs. Shout out to Zach. He's truly the best mace player in the world. He's fucking amazing. And he was one of my students, and I got to light him up. When you're like learning something and you learn something, you're like, holy shit, that is amazing. I got to give my students that feeling of excitement of learning something completely new that they didn't think existed, or and it made me feel amazing to be able to, after all these years, be able to give such an experience. And I rented a limo. I rented a huge Airbnb. We had so much fun. So although I can't wait to get back, I can't wait to experience things like that again. I have some of the best memories to keep me warm. No matter how alone I get, no matter how tough quarantine got, I got some of the best memories. Yeah.
Beautiful.
We talked about control. Let's get more into that. When we're swinging a mace, we have to keep control of our mace. And you have a lot of control in your life. What happens when you get thrown out of control in your life? And maybe you could relate that to the mace as well. I'm sure you will.
Yeah. Okay. So I love being a coach, and I love how I coach, because you're wrong.
Oh.
Why can't the mace move with momentum? Why does it have to be controlled? So, okay. Well, we've been taught to control the mace, but we get hurt in the areas that we don't train in. Why don't you throw your mace in the air? Why don't you lose control of it? Why don't you hold it without your hand? Hold it with the back of your hand. Hold it with your forearm. Try and bounce it on your arm. Try and bounce it on your back. So losing control, if you practice it, it's not a bad thing. Have you ever just yelled?
Yeah, let's yell right now. Well, no, probably not for the listeners.
Let's not do that.
We almost went for it. I just moved into this apartment 2 days ago. So, hi, guys. Losing control is important. It happens. It's happened to us all. We've all, I think, lost control in some area. We said something we shouldn't have, did something we shouldn't have. We lost a little control. I say go for it, man. Practice it. Lose some control. But if that's all you practice, then there's no harmony. And so you do need to practice control. But just because things get out of control doesn't mean you can't deal with it in a graceful and beautiful way. How do you deal with it? With beauty and grace. Practice. A couple different ways to practice. Because God said so, or whoever you believe in, the divine power decided you were going to have a bad day and throw all these hurdles at you. Or you could try. You can try to do something out of control. Man, you know what I started doing that was out of control for me? This is a stupid thing. Wow, it was a brilliant thing. When I would go to a restaurant, and I always knew what I was going to get. All right, French toast. All right, French toast. That's what I get. But I started doing this out of control thing, where I would look at the menu, and whatever made me go, oh God, I would get that. I would just experience it. And so that was like a little practice of getting out of control and not being what you want, and then you making the best out of it. Were the frog legs good? No. Experience so good. I try to eat all those frog legs.
Wow, that is so funny. That's
I think
such a random like thing, but there's so many of those that we can do in our life. And I feel like it's very similar to kind of leaning into that uncomfortability, right? We will never, first of all, control is kind of an illusion in my opinion. Like I feel we feel we have control in a lot of situations, and maybe that's because what we've practiced too, but I think learning how to adapt when those curveballs are thrown at us is so crucial, because they're always going to be thrown at you. You're never going to just always be in control of what's happening to you. So learning to flow with that and not, you know, run away from it, distract yourself, numb yourself, whatever you want to do, it's crucial, honestly, because that's going to happen often. You're going to have a bad day. You could have a great few days. And I was just talking about this myself, because I've been having like waves of emotion where I'll feel so good even in the same day, and then later in the day I'm like not feeling good. And it's not about always feeling those highs or always being in control. It's about being where you are, wherever that is, and knowing that it's okay to be there, knowing that it's okay to lose control and just go with the flow and not be so rigid and structured if that's kind of how you are normally. So I think that might be a very interesting thing for me to take on, that restaurant experience, because I always am like, I'm like, do I even want to stray from the one thing that I know is really good, even towards the other things that look good to me? So I might try that.
Right on. So we talked about anxiety and depression a bit, and so important to attend to our own mental health is attending to our self-care. So Leo, talk to us about your essential self-care practices. Generally that starts with a morning routine, but even more important, I think it's like how we set ourselves up for a good morning is a good night's sleep. So let's start there. How do you unwind your night, and what does that look like when you wake up? What are all those essential self-care practices that you've implemented into your being?
All right. So self-care practices. Okay. All right. Well, I worked a long time. I worked real hard. I remember. Did you remember I said when I was living in my car? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've just been taking it easy, man. I'm not gonna bullshit you. The last like 3 weeks, okay, my self-care has been feet up, watching TV, taking time off, working when minimal, not having any routine. Sometimes I go to the gym, sometimes I wake and bake. Who knows? But I got that way. It wasn't like, hey, I don't have to be responsible today, because that's what I'm describing, is me not having responsibilities today or whenever, right? And so if you put some work in, you might be able to build some time where you can go on vacation. Vacation looks a little different now. Okay, this is vacation. But I take vacations as part of my self-care. But in a realistic day-to-day self-care, I just want people to know I slack off hard, because you should slack off very hard as well. Matter of fact, you guys take the rest of the day off. Okay. All right. But it gets that way by, for me, it was creating an amazing wake up experience. So I took this Biohacker Retreat, and it was amazing. It was out in Florida, and I did all these biohacking things I didn't know you were supposed to do. I didn't even know what a biohacking was. I thought it was an energy drink. It's not at all. It's a lot of ice baths and a lot of bad stuff to drink. So, I'm joking. Yeah, but so I like to wake up in the morning. I like to take a warm shower. And then after the warm shower, I blast myself with cold. And I know a lot of people like the cold, and some people hate cold showers, but that's just been a fun practice of mine. And I think we all wrestled. And so maybe this is in our code. Glutton for punishment. I think it's hilarious when I'm suffering in the shower. It's like my first laugh, right? I'm like, oh, I'm in the shower. The water's warm, and then I'm like, okay, let me get this guy. I turn it on cold. I'm like, I think it's hilarious, and that's like one of my first laughs. And then that's the tone. You got to create a tone, a frequency, to be played throughout your house. Okay, so what do you mean, stereos? Do you mean that red light thing? Do you mean having a sound bowl? No, create that frequency from within. So if I can start out with a little laughter, it puts a smile on my face, and I like to do my checkup from the heart up. So whatever makes my head do this comes from my heart. So I'll put on some hip hop. I put on some hip hop, man. God, I love hip hop. And it just it keeps my vibe going. So I got this from the torture. Oh, yeah, that was funny. And then my heart is moving so much that my head can't stand still. And then my hips get into it, and of course that's like usually in the form of preparing my breakfast, which is usually a shake. So I'll blend some things up. If I'm not blending things up, I eat a lot of eggs, okay? Over easy eggs, a lot of hot sauce. I don't know if I like eggs. I know I like hot sauce. So my typical shake, like I'll do whey protein, I'll do a banana, I'll do some almonds, I'll do some almond milk, I'll do some yogurt, I'll do some type of green in there, normally spinach leaves. And, I'll have like 2 big servings of that. And if not, I'll eat a bunch of eggs. And those 2 are negotiable. There's no rhyme or reason. I do one or the other based on whatever keeps me doing this. After that, guys, I'm living my perfect day. Okay. I'm not about trying to live a day that's not perfect. I have a French bulldog. You guys met Butter. Butter wakes me up in the morning and we play. That's part of my perfect day. I planned on naming Butter Butter before I got Butter years and years and years ago. And I made that dream a reality. So my whole morning practice or my whole day practice is this bit of having a perfect day. And I had to do some drastic things to make this happen. Part of my perfect day after I get up and I have this good experience is to drive to a specific place, the Onnit Academy. Yeah, I didn't used to live in Austin, Texas. I had to move. Guys, if you're pursuing your dream, you might have to move away from the place you've been your whole life. And I drive there. And then I do something very purposeful. I smoke a joint, a King Palm joint. Smoke it in the parking lot. I hotbox my car like Ice Cube from Friday, okay? Like Cheech and Chong from back in the 80s, okay? And then I walk into the Onnit Academy smelling like Spider-Man's girlfriend, Mary Jane. It's a joke. And then I hug people. And people celebrate that I'm living my best life. They know. They go, oh, man. And then I go into the Onnit Academy, and this is all part of my perfect day. This is something I do daily. And I express myself as high level as I possibly can. And I spend 2 or 3 hours there, and until my heart is content, I film. I take that content, I bring it home, I play with my dog, I order lunch, and I edit. And I put out content for my my students. And so that is my my perfect day. And I know we kind of asked about the morning routine, but I just kind of carried it on. And then just to kind of top it off, my nighttime experience is playing virtual reality. Yeah, I play virtual reality. I play video games with my friends online. Okay. Sometimes, I go on a hot date. No, I'm just kidding. It's quarantine. But I am seeing somebody. So I've been spending time with my partner, and life has been good. Perfect day. Starts with a good morning. Sleep. I know you asked about that. I've got sleep figured out. I'm going to give a plug. And yes, I get paid to say this, but I didn't when it happened. Use promo code SAVAGE. Anytime you buy anything from the Onnit Academy, you're going to save 10%. Okay? You can save 10% no matter what, but support your boy. Use promo code SAVAGE. When I began my relationship with Onnit, they sent me some product. They sent me some New Mood. I didn't take New Mood. I had a horrible time sleeping. I don't expect anybody to have the same results I had, and this is not what New Mood is for. Here's the story. I used to stay up till 2 or 3, and I'd wake up around noon the next day. And that was my comfortable sleeping pattern. Of course, I wasn't allowed to wake up at noon, so I was always running on a deficit. So I took the New Mood. For some reason, I fell asleep at midnight, and I woke up at 4 in the morning, and I was having a bit of a panic. I was like, oh man, you need to get to sleep. And so I tossed and turned for 2 hours, and I finally got up, and I had a great day. And this started happening over and over and over. I only took 1 dose of New Mood, and it changed my sleeping patterns. It could have been a lot of other things, okay, that went along with that, but that was the thing that changed when I started taking that supplement. Ever since I took New Mood, I have been able to sleep fantastic. My new sleeping pattern, I go to bed at midnight, I wake up at 6, and I feel fantastic every day. So, yeah, sleep.
Beautiful.
Cool. I loved what you said about cutting yourself some slack with the routine and the self-care, because sometimes it's, and I know for me, and I actually was just sharing this with Derek because I was getting really into breath work, and when quarantine started, I did it like 50 days in a row, and then I started realizing like I don't even know why I'm doing this anymore. Like I know it makes me feel good, but I feel very resistant to it. Like I don't want to do it when I wake up. And then I'm like, why am I making myself do this? And it's so crucial that it's not just like things to check off your list. It's stuff that actually makes you feel good, you know? And I've given myself a break of like a month and a half, and I'm back to it and I feel great. So sometimes just like giving your body that break after lifting really heavy for a long time, it's super healthy to just let yourself relax a little bit, because we tend to be so hard on ourselves when we have all this awareness of what helps us. But sometimes giving yourself that break is really crucial. And I thought your perfect day was awesome. I totally relate to getting in the shower, and then when I'm like turning the cold on, I'm just counting, and I'm just like, holy fuck, this is so cold. I'm cracking up at myself. So I never realized like just that part of like laughing through it is also healthy. So I love that.
So as we close this interview, moving towards the close, because we could talk with you forever, but we'll have you on again, I am sure. So as we move towards the close, and you've mentioned so many lessons you've learned along the path so far, but just in short, what has been the greatest life lesson you've learned on the path thus far on your journey that you'd like to leave with our audience?
The lesson I would love everybody to take from this, my number one thing is pursue that thing you love, and eventually it'll turn into your dream, or that thing that you're dreaming about it being for you. But it takes time, and because something takes time, you guys should be proud of that. I'm glad this didn't happen overnight. I'm glad that Onnit didn't hire me. I thought they were going to see me swing mace and go, you're on our team, we're drafting you. But that wasn't the reality. And matter of fact, if they had given me opportunity then, things wouldn't have worked out like they would, because life and all the experiences that we have are a practice that gives us opportunity to get better. And so no matter what it is, if it takes time, great. You're passionate about it. I'm so glad it takes time. One of the biggest gifts of the practice of Steel Mace Flow, oftentimes it get called the master. You're the master, the mace master, the flow master. But because life, the practice of life, or Steel Mace Flow, has infinite possibilities, you cannot be a master. There cannot be a master. There cannot be the one. So, and that is the beautiful part of it. Because you love it, you'll never run out of it, because it's endless. So find yourself something to practice, something that you dedicate to, and something that you're not making a sacrifice. Don't make sacrifices. Do the thing that you love. If you have to, make a sacrifice, but that's for another discussion. And I would love to be back. Had a wonderful time talking and meeting with you both. Butter, of course. He's asleep right now, but he communicates with me telepathically. He said, thanks for having us on. Thank you guys for letting me talk about my program and sharing a little bit about myself.
Absolutely. Tyha has one last question for you, and then as do I. And then we'll leave the audience know where they can find you.
Okay.
All right. In 3 words or a phrase, how would you describe the experience you're having on this earth?
One word. Inspired.
Love it. Thank you.
Beautiful. And then for my last question, I'm going to get all funky with the time. And we're going to fast forward to 85-year-old Leo. What does that 85-year-old man, what does his life look like? What is the legacy that you've left behind?
Right. Last lesson. My students, it's not about the work. Trust me. You posted your work, you posted your push-up picture, you posted that video of you running, but nobody fucking cares about the work. They care about the message. It's what you do with your hard work. And so I would say, when I'm 85, it's not going to matter the work I did, the reps I did in the dark, the sacrifices I made, the losses, the wins. It's going to be about the message. So when I'm 85, people will say, that thing Leo did, his message. What an inspiring story. So that's 85-year-old Leo.
And we have to come back to the now. And as we come back to the now, that 85-year-old Leo has a message for you. Current day Leo. What does he tell you?
Well, he would be very proud and express that.
Beautiful. I'm very proud of you, and I'm so grateful to know you and have you on this call, introduce you to Tyha, introduce you to our listening audience. You are always with me, Leo Savage. I know that as a fact. You are always with me, and I hope there's a bit of me in you as well. And I think there is. Enough's all. We're all in this together. I love you, Leo.
Love you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I got so much from this, and I just am so excited for you to keep sharing your gift and healing people, helping them heal themselves. You know, it's not about showing people like telling them what to do. It's about allowing them to step into their own power and knowing that they can heal themselves from within. And I think we're all on that journey to do that for people. So thank you so much for this conversation.
My pleasure, my friends.
Where can they find you, Leo?
You guys, please stop by my website if you're interested in learning anything about Steel Mace Flow at steelmaceflow.com. We will be launching a new business, Mace Dojo, which is a monthly subscription in which you get to learn not just the mechanics of the mace, but some of the theology from the most amazing mace coaches in the world. More on that at steelmaceflow.com. And then if you guys ever want to get a hold of me, please do share your experience with me. You can find me at leo.urquides on Instagram. Hey, and my name is spelled, I think, right here, maybe. So if you guys need, you can look me up. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Let's all bring it in for a virtual fist bump. We could all join in at the winner circle. Well, thank you, Leo.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to sign us off now.